I've chosen this morning to share some words of a friend of mine. He writes a regular blog that is posted on the United Church Observer site. I first got to know David when his father came as the minister at my home church when I was a teenager in Mississauga. He had a great influence on my life of faith, and we had the opportunity to hear his younger brother, Mark Giuliano, preach at our joint worship service a couple of years ago. David Giuliano was the former moderator of the United Church of Canada. And I remember during his tenure as moderator having a conversation with him. It was the same time that I had had my stroke. And so out of the blue, I received a phone call from him one day. He was in a car on the way to the airport, heading off somewhere across the country in his role as moderator. But he just called to say that he had heard about my accident and wanted to know he was offering his prayers and support to me. And I was so astounded, and he said, "Well, Galen, I realize as I came to be elected as moderator that I thought I was coming from a place of great strength and knowledge and ability. But in the midst of his time as moderator, he was diagnosed with cancer. And so most of his time was spent in the office recovering on the sofa in his office from various chemo and radiation treatments that he ended up having in Toronto." David was kind of a unique individual. He was settled to a small congregation in Marathon, Ontario, just on the shores of Lake Superior. Now, any of you that know settlement charges, often you're lucky if your minister stays there for maybe 2 years, max 3, but then, boy, you're out of there as quick as you can get. But David never felt that way about the community in which he became a part, and he is still at that same settlement charge that now has been his home congregation where he has ministered for over 25 years, and he's probably going to be there until he retires in the next few years. And so I'd like to share with you today one of his blog posts. And I thought it was so poignant as we're reflecting on Jesus as the bread of life. And I sometimes realize that we think so much about our faith in terms of what happens within these four walls. And yet really our faith is what happens beyond our four walls. When we move out into the world and we recognize not only the divinity of Christ in all that we say and do, but in one another. And when we seek and find those divine sparks in the eyes or in the lives of other people, when we recognize those sacred moments in what might seem to be an ordinary time. And I think that's really what the spirit of Pentecost is about. It was a regular gathering, a religious gathering that kind of went so AWOL that people thought the participants were drunk. But it was the infusion of the Spirit of God that filled and stirred those people's lives so tremendously that they just couldn't help but be overwhelmed with a sense of joy and celebration. So in the spirit of Pentecost, that infusion of God's Spirit in the midst of our ordinary lives, and in the spirit of suffering that sometimes leads us to great awareness of God's presence in our lives, I'd like to share with you David's blog. He entitles this series, Camino de Cancer. I'm thankful in spite of it all. In spite of the hair-growing flesh flap relocated to my forehead from my thigh, and the excised bone beneath it replaced with titanium mesh. In spite of the excruciating pain only moments ago of having a 15-inch drain winched from beneath my knee to thigh incision, I'm thankful. You know the list. Doctors and nurses, friends and family who visit, my beloved Pearl and our children, for life and beauty and for food and clean sheets. I'm genuinely grateful. I'm also feeling sorry for myself today and a little jealous. Here it is, Thanksgiving, and I'm shuffling the halls of Toronto General Hospital, trailing my intravenous pole, the rear end of my boxers on display. I'm in pain, body and soul. I'm jealous of everyone who's tucking into a turkey dinner and enjoying the warm glow of familial companionship. I'm jealous of Pearl, my mom, and my dear friend Keith, who have crossed University Avenue to the Swiss Chalet for a dinner of chicken and stuffing, cranberry sauce and potatoes, fried, mashed, or baked. How self-pitying is that? When my dinner arrives, Keith and Mum are on their way back to Owen Sound, and Pearl is at my bedside. She positions the table over the bed. I push the button to raise the back and poke a finger through a venting hole on the plastic cover to unveil the plate. There's a mash of something red and white. It may have been lasagna when it emerged from some subterranean industrial kitchen, before it was delivered to the loading dock downstairs. There's a vegetable. Are those carrots? There's tea. There's a little dish of pineapple. It appears to be fresh, not canned. Be still, my heart. There's a hard white bun hermetically sealed in a cellophane baggie. There's a half cup of juice in a plastic container with a tinfoil lid. I lift the container closer to my right eye, the good one, to see what kind of juice it contains. Grape. Heretofore, juices had arrived predictably. Orange on the morning tray, apple on the lunch and evenings trays. That reliable pattern is shattered by grape juice, and it seems like a minor miracle. I'm a preacher and a cradle Christian. To me, a bun and grape juice is Christ's clarion call to the table. It's as reflexive as standing when a hymn is announced. Holding the juice cup in one hand and the bun in the other, I say to Pearl, "We can have communion." I mean it as a little joke, but the words catch in my throat. My eyes spill over. We can have communion. I finish my lasagna and savor the pineapple. I eat all of it because I'm hungry, and because even in my self-pitying funk, I know there are too many people who would trade plates with me in an instant. I'm privileged in ways that embarrass me. Pearl goes down the hall to refill my cup with water and ice. I clear the blue plastic tray of detritus, plates, and packaging. I spread a clean white tissue on it, tear open the bun bag with my teeth, and peel back the foil juice lid. I center them on the tissue on the tray. Pearl returns and sits on the edge of the bed, the elements between us. I repeat the story of Jesus' last meal, how he broke the bread, poured the wine, asked his friends to remember him when they ate and drank. We say a prayer naming the things for which we are grateful. We break and eat the dry bun, wash it down with grape juice. I don't know if Pearl is crying. My own eyes are too flooded with tears to see. Tears of gratitude for a bun and a cup of grape juice. For Jesus and his friends who I experience in those unremarkable elements. In that bun and juice, the entire cosmos is present. The communion of saints, living and dead, gather round to hold and heal us. My roommate is vomiting in the bathroom. The sound of it grounds me on the earth, allowing my puny sufferings to be woven together with the far greater sufferings of the world and carry the remembrance of Jesus' own suffering in my body. Paradoxically, my small bit of suffering helps me to feel closer to joy than I have felt all day. It's a mystery, the way the simplest of actions, like eating and drinking, can become sacred ritual and break the world open to us and us to it. The most mundane things, a bun in a bag and a cup of juice, become conduits of the holy. I'm grateful for all the Sundays when I ate and drank juice and it meant nothing to me. Each one of them were training me for moments like this. David Giuliano. Amen.